You're watching Sleep Culture. Chapter 5. The Vulnerable World. Imagine a planet on which a single discovery could end civilization, not through malice or war, but through one critical weakness, a technology so catastrophic that, if misused even once, humanity could not recover. This is the essence of the vulnerable world hypothesis, an idea proposed by philosopher Nick Bostrom. Bostrom is a renowned thinker in the field of existential risk. Bostrom is the founding director of the Future of Humanity Institute at the University of Oxford, where he leads research on the profound challenges posed by advanced technologies. His work has shaped global discourse on artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and human survival. Bostrom suggests that technological progress is like drawing from a vast urn filled with colored balls. Most of these balls represent harmless or beneficial discoveries, medical breakthroughs, communication tools, sources of clean energy. But hidden somewhere in that urn are black balls, inventions that could cause irreversible harm. The terrifying question is not whether we'll draw a black ball, but whether we'll recognize its danger before it's too late. Consider the example of nuclear weapons. In the mid-20th century, scientists unlocked the destructive power of the atom. For the first time in history, humanity possessed the capability to annihilate itself. And yet, through a combination of diplomacy, deterrence, and regulation, we managed to contain this existential risk, at least so far. But what if the next catastrophic discovery is not so easily controlled? What if it's something that can be built in a garage or spread invisibly across the globe? Imagine a technology like self-replicating nanobots, capable of consuming all organic matter in a chain reaction known as grey goo, or a cheap, easily assembled biological tool engineered to be unstoppable. In such a world, it would take only one mistake, one rogue actor, to trigger collapse. Bostrom's hypothesis paints a grim picture. He warns that as technological progress accelerates, the likelihood of encountering these black balls increases. Without effective global coordination and control mechanisms, our civilization remains perilously vulnerable. Let's explore this with an exercise. Picture yourself not in the distant future, but in an alternate version of today. You are a brilliant scientist who has just discovered a device capable of manipulating reality at its most fundamental level. You stand in your laboratory, the weight of your discovery pressing down on your shoulders. The device hums with power, capable of healing the sick, eliminating hunger, and reversing the effects of climate change. But there is a flaw. A single miscalculation could turn this marvel into a tool of unimaginable destruction. Worse still, you realize that the knowledge of how to build such a device could spread uncontrollably. You're faced with an agonizing decision. Share your creation with the world and risk its misuse, or destroy it and bear the guilt of withholding a potential utopia. You close your eyes and imagine what might follow if you chose to reveal your invention. Perhaps at first, it is heralded as a miracle. Governments and industries race to harness its potential. For a time, prosperity blooms. Diseases are eradicated, scarcity becomes a distant memory, and humanity enters a golden age. Then comes the inevitable fracture. Competing interests emerge. Rogue actors seek to control or weaponize the technology. Accidents happen. A misaligned calculation in one country leads to a catastrophic failure. The global community splinters into chaos. The very tool that promised salvation now brings ruin. Do you trust your fellow man to do the right thing? What about your fellow government or your fellow corporation? You open your eyes, trembling. The weight of progress has never been so palpable. This dilemma embodies the core tension of the vulnerable world hypothesis. Technological advancement is not inherently evil. In fact, it often arises from the noblest aspirations. But progress is indifferent to morality. It gifts us the power to create or to destroy with equal ease. In many ways, it is by pure luck that the tools designed to level cities are currently complex and expensive, consisting of rare elements and assembled by vast machines. But this is not explicit in their existence. There is no law that says, in time, a cheap, simple, widely available tool won't be discovered or created that can undo us all at the snap of a finger. In response to such risks, Bostrom suggests that we may be forced into a global surveillance system capable of monitoring every technological action. This would be a world where anonymity no longer exists, where every scientific experiment and industrial activity is logged and overseen. Such a system might prevent the misuse of catastrophic technologies. But at the cost of freedom, is this solution truly acceptable? Or does it merely replace one existential threat with another? A global surveillance network would function as a digital panopticon, compelling individuals to self-regulate under the knowledge that their every move is being watched. It would be a society driven by fear of exposure, where innovation might stagnate under the weight of constant oversight. Yet can we afford not to take such measures? History offers chilling examples of how quickly unregulated technologies can spiral out of control. During the early years of the 21st century, cyber attacks became a growing concern. What began as isolated incidents of hacking soon evolved into large-scale operations capable of crippling national infrastructure. Imagine this scenario magnified by orders of magnitude with technologies designed to manipulate biology, chemistry, or fundamental physics. During World War II, in a lecture hall at Los Alamos, physicist Richard Feynman would later reflect on the moral weight of having helped create the first atomic bomb. The bomb had ended the war, but left behind a harrowing legacy of existential risk. Feynman spoke of how the scientists had been driven by necessity, by the fear that others might discover the technology first. Yet, in the aftermath, a profound silence settled among them, a chilling recognition that they had unlocked a power capable of obliterating humanity. Feynman would recall visiting New York City in the months that followed, sitting for coffee at a crowded cafe and looking around at the faces of the strangers eating their lunches, completely unaware of what he had helped to create. It's all over, and they just don't understand. This story encapsulates the very dilemma that Bostrom warns us about. Can progress ever be decoupled from its unintended consequences? Feynman's reflections serve as a reminder that, even with noble intentions, the advancement of powerful technologies always carries a shadow. Some argue that the key to avoiding a vulnerable world lies in fostering global cooperation. If nations can come together to create binding agreements on technological safety, perhaps the risks can be mitigated without resorting to totalitarian control. Proponents point to international treaties on nuclear weapons and chemical warfare as models for such cooperation. But this optimism faces significant challenges. The rise of geopolitical tensions, distrust between rival powers, and the fragmented nature of global governance make unified action increasingly difficult. And unlike nuclear weapons, future catastrophic technologies may not be limited to a handful of superpowers. In a hyper-connected world, any individual with access to the right tools and knowledge could pose a threat. Bostrom's hypothesis is ultimately a call for proactive ethics. He urges scientists, policymakers, and citizens to confront the implications of their discoveries before it's too late. This involves not only identifying potential black balls, but also developing robust strategies for containment and oversight. One such strategy is the concept of differential technological development. This approach prioritizes the advancement of protective technologies, such as disease detection, cyber defenses, and AI safety protocols over potentially harmful innovations. By staying ahead of the curve, we may be able to shield ourselves from catastrophic risks. However, differential development is not without its critics. Some fear that focusing too heavily on protective measures could stifle creativity and hinder progress. Others worry that unequal access to these technologies might exacerbate existing inequalities, creating a world where only the most powerful are protected from existential threats. As you ponder these questions, imagine once more the image of the urn filled with colored balls. Each new invention is a draw. Most will improve our lives in ways we can barely comprehend. But somewhere in that urn, a black ball awaits. Perhaps we've already drawn close to it, or perhaps it's still buried deep in the future. Now, imagine a final poetic vision. You are no longer the scientist in the lab, but an ancient storyteller sitting by the fire. You tell your listeners that humanity has always been both creator and destroyer, walking a mountaintop between wonder and catastrophe. The moon above shines down, reminding you of every risk taken, every voyage launched into the unknown. It glows, not just with light, but with the weight of all our choices. The challenge before us is clear: to navigate the path of progress without losing sight of the risks, to draw wisely from the urn, knowing that one mistake could cost us everything, and to hope, or better yet, ensure, that the next draw brings light rather than darkness.